We're going to talk about expectation in this video and how can you get a hold of it. As soon as you get the understanding of the fact that you get from life what you expect, you become more aware of what you ask for. It's not a matter of knowing how to get there if your why is strong enough and the path is a bit foggy, as long as your expectation is where it should be, on the right frequency, if I can say that. And so in today's video, I'm going to talk about expectations and how can you better prepare yourself in thinking, in mindset, with other words, to get what you actually want in life, which is more life, better things, right? And here we go. You're living inside the expectations of people who never knew you. Talking about your friends you left behind, the school, the parents and everything, and all the people you don't know, right? And that's why your life looks the way it does, assuming you want your life to be a bit better than it is or much better than it is. And there are premium things in this world and there are cheap things. And what decides which one you end up with is what you have been around long enough to find normal. This is a very crucial bit I want you to, I don't know if you can take this, screenshot this and save it somewhere and read it as often as possible because it will open your awareness to a big truth, right? This is the whole game. The people living the kind of life you secretly want got there by quietly raising what they expected from reality, and reality met them at a new level. Intelligence has very little to do with it. Work ethic has more to do with it, but still less than people think. However, what does most of the work is that you walked into the day expecting and assuming. And that expectation was built over years of being around a certain kind of life until that kind of life became the one you assumed you would have. Now here, some people do this unconsciously. I want you to do this consciously seeing this video. If you want a different life, you don't need a new plan. You need a new normal. What you consider normal. You want to upscale your consciousness, right? If you look around you, there are things that could be done better. Part number one, you're entitled to the best and you should demand it from yourself, right? So I'll be saying something the part of you raised to be polite is going to flinch at because it sounds arrogant and because nobody ever said it to you growing up and because the people who could have said it were too busy surviving to think in those terms. You're entitled to the best things in life, bro, because life is an illusion and you simply take what's yours, man. You're entitled to them because you're here and being here is the only qualification everyone ever needed. The people currently living the lives you imagine for yourself in private did not get there by waiting, so you need to take some action. They quietly decided at some point the best version of life was theirs to take and refused to settle for anything less than that. And the world rearranged itself around that decision, right? Because it always does. This is what I want you to understand. Everything around you is the result of a decision you took. So take more decisions. Decisions got power because when you decide, you choose. You choose one way over the other and they compound, right? And you will end up being a new person, a different person along the years. The demand has to come from you first, long before anyone else gets a chance to give it to you or confirm it for you. Watch a millionaire when his car breaks down. He does not lift the hood. He does not look up the part number for the alternator. He does not sit there thinking whether to repair or replace, calculating what the mechanic might charge, worrying about being scammed. He picks up the phone, calls the garage and expects a car to be serviced because this is the deal he made with reality and reality has agreed to it. Do you understand? This is one of the biggest truths, man. This is what you have to do with reality. You have to make a deal with it in a way. The breakdown is a small inconvenience that someone else will handle for him. And his attention moves on to whatever he is actually building with his life. But his life actually involves helping other people's lives. Now watch the mechanic. The mechanic expects to repair cars to pay his bills. He gets up in the morning, expecting that today will be like yesterday, with a different set of cars and the same set of problems. And at the end of the week, he will get paid enough to cover what he already owes, and the cycle will repeat. There is nothing wrong with the mechanic. He's doing what he expected to do. And life is delivering what he expected it to deliver with great precision. Wow. Neither man is smarter than the other. Neither is working harder. They live in two completely different realities because they walked into the day expecting two completely different things. And the expectation was built years before either of them was old enough to see it. This shows us it's unconscious. And until you make the unconscious conscious, as Carl Jung said, you will call your life faith and not destiny. Expectation is the operating system. Everything else is built on it. When you expect to struggle, struggle finds you and you call it bad luck. When you expect to be served, service finds you and you call it just how things work out. When you expect doors to open, more doors open than you can walk through in a lifetime. When you expect doors to be closed, you walk up to closed doors for 40 years and tell yourself you knew it would be like this. It's just quite the majority of people around us, man. to be honest. You have to give yourself permission to expect more from life before there is any evidence that more is on the way, because the evidence does not show up until the expectation is already in place. This is the part nobody tells you. You're waiting for proof before you raise the standard, and the proof is waiting for you to raise the standard before it shows up. So you see the way out of the loop now. Somebody has to move first, and it has to be you're thinking, because the universe is not going to move first on something it has not been asked for. So you see, you have to be the cause, and the universe will be the effect for you. This is how the life works, and if it does, play according to the rules. Part number 2, the reason you don't dream big is that nobody around you ever did. Look at the place you live in. Drive through your city for 10 minutes and pay attention, like conscious awareness, right, to what's actually in front of you. The houses, the cars, the way people are dressed, the way they walk, the way they speak to each other. You're looking at the average expectation of an entire population made visible, but you can also see the individual, right? And the amount of service that individual can fake or can reflect, right? So every house was built by someone who could imagine that house. Every car was bought by someone who could imagine owning that car. Every life you see was lived by someone who could see no further than the life they were living. Almost all of it is normal, average, the middle of the curve, repeated thousands of times in slight variations. Most people are not incapable of more. They grew up around the same level of normal as everyone else around them. And the level of normal you grew up around becomes the ceiling on what you can later imagine wanting for yourself. You cannot want what you've never seen, never touched, never been in the same room with. The hunger does not arrive on its own. The hunger has to be triggered by exposure. And most people are never exposed to anything beyond what their parents already had, which was already the average of what their parents already had. Think about how a typical life unfolds. You're born into a house at a particular tier. You are raised by people who live within that tier. You go to school with kids from the same tier, in classrooms run by teachers who themselves are or near that tier, learning a curriculum designed to prepare you for a job that will land you, if everything goes well, at a slightly higher tier than the one you started at. You graduate, take the job, watch television in the evenings to recover from the day, scroll through the phone to fall asleep, wake up and do it again. Years pass without a single moment of exposure to a life genuinely different from the one you're already living. This is the status quo. The job pays the bills. The bills get paid. The leftover money goes into a holiday once a year and small purchases that briefly feel like progress. The weekends become about recovery from the weeks. The years become about getting through them. The dream, if there ever was one, gets quietly retired somewhere in your early 30s because nobody around you is dreaming either. And to keep dreaming when nobody else does is to feel slightly mad. And nobody wants to feel mad on top of everything else they are already feeling, right? Because by the time you're 30, you already have some life experiences, some failed relationships, and some things you've been attached to and lost and so on, right? You've been through some experience, some life knockouts and so on. And so to have a dream on top where nobody else has is mad. And this is what gets called normal. And normal has the strongest grip on a life because normal does not announce itself. It does not introduce itself as the cage. Let me make this with bold. It just feels like reality. It feels like this is how things are. And as long as something feels like reality, you don't even think to question it because nobody questions the air they breathe. This is big. The cruel part of all of this is that the people around you are not holding you back on purpose. They love you. They want the best for you. The best they can want for you. It's a slightly upgraded version of the life they already know, right? So this is within their limits as well. Because they cannot want for you what they cannot imagine for themselves, right? So when you start to dream bigger, they will try to talk you back down to the size of the dream they can hold for you out of a love that does not know any better. Nobody showed you a bigger life from the day you understand it. Continuing to live the small one becomes a choice, and the choice belongs to you every single morning from here forward. And this is where you break the loop, because you can change a new way of living, right? If you want to start going to the gym, you will bloody wake up and go to the gym, having that body in mind, right? Saving pictures on Pinterest on other bodybuilders and looking at them daily, getting inspiration to start that business once and for all. And you can change. It all starts in the morning, right? One morning at a time. This is how it compounds. And you will obviously do what works so you can succeed. Part number 3, choosing without resistance and without importance. Now we get to the part most people get wrong, and the part that separates the people who actually shift their lives from the people who spend 20 years reading books about shifting their lives. So you have to choose the bigger life. Actually make the choice. I said to you how? In the morning. Name it out loud for yourself. Claim it. Decide that this is the version of your life you are now living towards, with all the implications that come with it. The choice has to be specific enough that you would recognize yourself living it. And the choice has to be honest enough that you cannot pretend you did not make it later. The choice has to come from a particular place, and this is where it gets tricky. When you choose something because you need it to fix you, because you need to prove something to someone, because you need to feel okay about who you are, you're not really choosing it. You're grabbing for it in the way a drowning man grabs for anything floating past him. And life does not respond to that energy, right? Life responds to the energy of someone who has already decided and is now simply walking toward a thing without any drama attached to whether or not they get it today, right? The bigger life has to matter to you, and it also has to not matter to you. This is a very crucial bit, right? That sentence sounds like a riddle and is one of the most important things in this whole essay. So sit with it. It has to matter enough that you organize your days around it, make decisions in service of it, and say no to the things that pull you away from it. It also has to matter solely, or that your sense of self does not collapse if it does not arrive on the timeline you wanted. The first kind of mattering is fuel. The second kind is poison, and the poison version is what almost everyone is running on, which is why almost everyone burns out or gives up or quietly settles back into the life they were trying to live. Life will rearrange the route for you if you let it. This is where you need to understand. This is very crucial, bro. The mind is the one that produces chaos. Learn to quiet it from time to time. You do this precisely to see the truth. Importance is the thing that closes your eyes. The more important you make something, the less you can see what is actually happening around it. You become so fixated on the specific outcome you wanted that you miss the better outcome already trying to find you, because the better outcome looks different from what you pictured. And the picture in your head is the only one your eyes are scanning for. So drop the importance while keeping your direction and watch what happens. Part number 4, be flexible, adapt, and change. The life you actually end up living is not going to look exactly like the life you imagined. And the people who suffer the most are the ones who refuse to let the picture update. They had a plan in their 20s. The plan does not survive contact with reality, the way no plan ever does. And instead of taking in new information and adjusting, they grip the original plan harder, because letting it go feels like admitting defeat. And admitting defeat feels worse to them than the slow-motion disaster or forcing a life that no longer fits. So you see, people, this resonates with the great truth Robert Greene said in his book, The Human Nature. People are willing to be lied to feel good rather than to be told the truth, right? So flexibility is the difference between expanding and breaking. The same wind that snaps a rigid branch barely moves a flexible one. You're going to encounter winds. The question is whether you are built to bend. Most people hear this and think they're flexible because they have changed their mind about small things in the past, which is a different kind of flexibility from what we're talking about. The kind of image we're talking about is the ability to let your image of your own future change in real time as new information arrives, without grieving the old image for 6 months first. You wanted to be a lawyer, halfway through something changes. The work bores you, the people repel you, the version of yourself you're turning into is one you don't actually want to be. A flexible person updates. An inflexible person finishes the degree, takes the job, lives the life, and at 50 wonders why everything feels hollow, because the inflexible person mistook a youthful prediction for a lifelong commitment and gave the prediction more weight than their own current self. So adaptation is intelligence. The smartest organism is the one that responds most accurately to the environment it is actually in, rather than the environment it expects to be in. You are an organism. You're an organism. The same rule apply. Change the plan when the plan is changing. Change the relationships when the relationships need changing. Change the city, the job, the friends, the routine, the diet, the daily structure, whatever needs to change so what you're doing actually matches who you're becoming. The discomfort of changing is small. The cost of not changing is the rest of your life spent in an illusion. Watch out. 5. Implement through action. Be open to whatever reality brings. We say be open so you can adapt. None of this matters if you don't move. You can decide to expect more. You can choose the bigger life without grasping at it. You can stay flexible and adaptive and open. Without doing something with your hands and your feet and your hours, you're still going to wake up in 5 years living the same life. And the only thing that will have changed is that you will have read more books about why you're not living it, all right? Action is the thing that closes the gap between the imagined version of you and the actual version of you. And it does it one small move at a time, over a long enough timeline that most people quit before the compounding starts to show. Action has to be paired with openness. And this is where people get tripped up. They take action with a fixed image of what the action is supposed to produce. And when the action produces something else, they decide the action failed, when in fact the action was simply trying to give them something they did not yet know what to want. Stay open while you move. Take the step, watch what arrives. Take the next step based on where you actually arrived rather than what you expected to arrive, because the road is going to twist, so twist with it. You will end up somewhere better than the place you originally aimed at, because the original aim was based on the smaller version of you, and the road has been quietly delivering you to a bigger one. So do something today, a small thing that the version of you living the bigger life would do, without thinking about it. Send a message, make the call, walk into the room you normally avoid, ask for the thing you normally settle for less than. The smallness is the point. Small things repeated with the right expectation behind them compound into a life that looks nothing like the one you started in, right? So you gotta take some risks. Part number 6, expand the comfort zone gradually until the new becomes the normal. You cannot jump from your current normal to the new normal in one move. The subconscious mind, which is the thing that actually runs your life, will reject the new level if you try to install it too fast. The mismatch sits in the identity, and identity does not change in a weekend. This is why people who win the lottery often end up broke within a few years. They were handed the external version of a different life without doing the internal work to become the kind of person who could hold it, right? And the subconscious quietly stirred them back towards the level it recognized as home. So the money disappeared because the person had not yet expanded into someone who could be a person with that money, and reality matched their inner states, something the reality always does. So you expand the comfort zone gradually. Walk into the slightly nicer restaurant, stay in the slightly nicer hotel, buy the slightly better version of the everyday thing you already buy. Sit in a room with people who are 1 or 2 levels ahead of where you currently are, not 10. Because 10 will overwhelm the system and send you running back to where you know. 1 or 2 is digestible. 1 or 2 is what the subconscious can absorb without panicking. Each small step up resets the baseline. The thing that felt premium last month becomes normal this month. Once it becomes normal, you can step up again. The new becomes the floor. The old becomes the memory of what you used to think was good enough, and you cannot quite believe you ever found it sufficient. That's fine. This is the actual mechanism by which your life upgrades. Steady, quiet expansion of where you've been around enough times to find them remarkable. The first time you flew business class felt extravagant. The 10th time is just how you fly. So the room itself did not change. Your perception and so your nervous system did. And your nervous system is the thing that decides what is allowed to be part of your life going forward. Give it the right exposure in the right doses over a long enough period, and your nervous system will do the work for you, right? It will start to expect the better thing, and then it will start to require the better thing. And at some point, you will look around and realize you're living a life your old self would have been intimidated by. And you will not even remember when the change happened, because the change happened to you gradually to point to, which is good. Part number 7, take small risks and stay detached from the outcome. Every expansion of the comfort zone involves a small risk, because the comfort zone is called the comfort zone for a reason. Outside of it, you don't know what's going to happen. The not knowing is why your nervous system is trying to protect you from. And the protection is exactly what's keeping you small. This is fear. You can feel it and you can hear it as stories. Take small risks on purpose, often in a deliberate direction. This is what you have to do. Make the offer you've been putting off, raise the price, approach the girl, walk into the place that intimidates you, have the conversation you've been avoiding. None of these are going to ruin your life if they go badly. All of them are going to expand what you find tolerable, which is the only currency that actually matters in this work. It's going to be a lesson or a win. Here is the trick when doing the move. To be able to do this, have in mind that you can be okay without having them. Always have a backup plan. This is the very crucial bit. If you take the risk and tie your sense of self to the outcome, you have built a trap for yourself. The outcome will land however it lands, with no regard for how much you needed it to land a particular way. And if you need it badly, you will spend days recovering from a small experiment that was never supposed to be that big a deal. You will avoid taking the next risk because the last one cost you too much emotionally, and the avoidance will quietly shrink your comfort zone back to where it started. So detachment is what lets you keep going. You take the risk, you watch what happens. You take in the information and adjust. It is information about what works in the direction you're moving in, and information is the thing you need, regardless of whether the result is good or bad. Be cold with it. Life is business. The people who upgrade their lives are no braver than you. They just learn to take risks without making them mean too much. And that emotional flexibility is what lets them take the next one, and the next one, and the next one, until the cumulative effect is a life that looks impossible from where you're standing now. So start small, stay detached, and keep going. The compound effect will do its job on your behalf. This is the very important bit. So take a small risk in a deliberate direction. Stop accepting a version of normal that was decided by people who never knew you, and start building one that belongs to you. This is how you give birth to your agency, to your individuality. And one more thing, the bigger life is waiting for you to expect it. It's another crucial bit. I want you to understand this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.